Hi everyone, good to see you here. Welcome to the Stars and Startups podcast with me, Varun Bumidi. The podcast is where we get up close and personal with interesting founders and doers from the Indian startup ecosystem. On the podcast, we hear illuminating stories of entrepreneurship and the journey of building a business. Today, we speak of the founder who has built a company in a space that has been now coined as the future of work. We dig into the concept as well as hear from Niranjan on how the business has evolved over the years. Today, the startup boasts of more than 300 brands that have used their solution to run micro jobs and gigs. This includes some big names like Samsung, Starbucks, Spotify, Universal Music, Puma, and a lot more. As always, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review wherever you're listening to it. If you've already done that, then do share it with your friends who may enjoy hearing these stories as well. Okay, thanks for listening, and let's say hi to Niranjan Nakhate. Hey guys, today we have Niranjan Nakhate of Frapp, now called Futwork, on the Stars and Startups podcast. Frapp is a company that I came across many years ago while I was working at Citrus. Niranjan and his co-founder built Frapp, basically focusing on working with college students. This is a time when a lot of deal companies, deal sites were making hay. And Frapp was, I wouldn't say making hay at that time, but they were a company that wanted to help college students. And it was a very interesting value prop that they offered, and they had amazing kind of signups and utilization by these students. So, I wanted to kind of share that story of how that started. And, here we have Niranjan. Hey, Niranjan, how are you doing?
Hey, hi Varun, I'm doing well. Just
Welcome to the
just
show.
back. Yes. Thank you. Thanks a lot for inviting me. This is great. My first podcast, so I'm slightly nervous, but hope I kind of
Hey, we're going to make you
like
feel
it.
comfortable here.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
What's lockdown been for you? What have you been doing?
I used to always cook, but I think I've started cooking a lot more, especially on the weekend. I think everyone in our family loves to cook, so that's great. But I started baking also, which is something I never thought I'd do because it just requires patience and precision. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. Apart from that, when I think I'm pretty good at pocha right now, but yeah, just getting used to general things. But yeah, also trying to pick up a few hobbies, trying to read more, listening to a lot more podcasts. I think initially, for me, like I used to travel like an hour to office, and
Hmm,
since that went away completely, all those activities went away. So
right.
listening to say a podcast or reading articles. So I think initially it was that, but now I think kind of fixed those things back into the schedule. So that's great.
How's the team taking lockdown? How large is the team actually?
So we are around 28 people right now.
Hmm.
We were around the same number of people during when the lockdown began too. So incidentally, like a week before the actual Maharashtra lockdown, I think Maharashtra started a week before the national lockdown happened. I think I'd just come back from Bangalore for after like a couple of days there, and I was like, dude, this is going to be something because I'm seeing people wear masks, and Armaan and I incidentally were supposed to leave for the US in
Oh.
a week that time,
Hmm.
and we decided, okay, let's do one thing, let's do like a trial work from home Friday, right? And we did that, and we told people, take all the stuff home that you have and get it back on Monday if required, but just take everything. And then I think over that weekend, Bombay saw a lot of cases, and we were like, okay, we just need to work from home. So I think that trial day, I think like the first half of March just became like a permanent lockdown.
Right.
And then we actually encouraged some of our employees to go back to their hometowns before the entire lockdown was started. In fact, they got reached out to us saying if they could do it, and we're like, please go ahead and just stay
Yeah.
safe. And I think the
Yeah.
first, I think I told, I think it was a year end, so I told all our investors and also that it's like an Agni Pariksha for all our processes. And
Yeah.
you build a team in a very different, like hands-on way where people are working, speaking to each other. So that was a change. We like stopped all WhatsApp communication, moved everything to Slack.
Right.
Trying to set a little more agendas for meetings. The only thing I think we lose out, we also read that recently, is that a lot of things would happen like in a very like serendipity in an office, right? You're just moving around and
Right.
you're like, oh, why don't we try this? And that happened. And that is something that we're missing. I think Paul Graham also recently tweeted about it, and Armaan also told me that that's what we like kind of miss in office. But yeah, I think over time, I think we'll try to get that.
What do you mean by missing an office is the fact that you could experiment and share um, thoughts and opinions very quickly and implement it. Is that what
Yeah,
it is?
yeah, I think that was more real time like feedback and real time
Yeah,
conversations that were happening. So now we're trying to kind of include all of that into the flow. I think, and obviously, like every company trying to tell people to over
yeah,
communicate.
yeah.
So hopefully,
Is
some of
there a is there a Slack group that says miscellaneous where you just add random things now? That hey, I had this
yeah,
thought. Let's talk about it.
yeah. I think it's in like different Slack channels. There's a Slack channels just like scale up really fast. So we have a
Yeah.
few couple of like cool Slack channels. One's for skills, like just to share anything that you learn, and the other thing is
Mhm.
for what we call chai wala below office. So you can just share random stuff, memes, basically like break time stuff. And
Right.
yeah, like people like send photographs of what they're eating and things like that. So I think that keeps like that was the environment in office. So I think that's something that which keeps going. But yeah, a lot of people like are doing like stuff with the other teams also. So we did like this
Mm.
thing on a Friday where you made a smaller team inside with multiple
Right.
sales, execution, and tech, and like come up with
Mm.
solutions. So you get a broader idea. Yeah.
A lot of the employees of Frapp are very young, just like the
Yeah,
founders. Was that by design?
because you were targeting students initially. Yeah. Actually, no. I think we were the first phase of hires were I think people who we knew within our network, so we got them on board just to help us kind of get going. Our first like hire was Shri, who still leads our sales, and it was very impressive because he came to the meeting. It was like he interviewed us. He just gave like a document saying that this is what you guys need to do, and we are like, okay, why don't you join us and do it with us? So it was pretty cool like that. But I think that was the first hire, and we hired young for a couple of reasons. One, because we really picked like good students from good colleges in the initial days.
Hmm.
Who'd done more than just study. So even if their academic records were probably not great, but they were popular on campus, and it helped us in both ways because rightfully that we could probably get the word out on campus. We had like a great ambassador program on campus. A few of them like continued working with us. So I think that was the initial design. But I think as the company
Hmm.
started scaling, we also added people with more experience and more scale, and also gave opportunities to people internally to kind of scale up
Right.
and kind of scale to taking on more responsibility. So I think that is one thing that we are very proud of. That a lot of the team is in a sense like we've been able to give out leadership positions to people who have this as their first job and are kind of learning on the go. Because for us also it was a very similar experience. Starting at 21, I think when Armaan and I, we were in college when we decided to launch a student discount card, and it was actually like an extension of like the final year project which Armaan was working on. He was a year senior, and I think that was the initial thought. We spoke to a lot of vendors. Unfortunately, it kind of didn't take off the way we wanted it to.
Hmm.
Then after a year, Armaan worked. I graduated, worked for a bit, and this was again all pre-geo times. And at that point, we remember like having a chat. There is so much potential of targeting the youth, and at that time, we used to like 33 million students in higher education, and we also had in hindsight, we had a very warped view of like what the youth was. We
Right.
consider it to be very homogeneous to someone studying in a college like us, right?
Hmm.
And that wasn't the case.
You said there were 33 million users on the platform at that time.
No, no, there were those many students in higher education in India.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, wow, he's taken over the whole. I was like, I didn't know that number before. Armaan had done this as this project in college,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
and then you guys went off to work. But this kept gnawing at you to say, okay, can we actually solve it? Can we do something about it? How do you guys come back to the problem then, and what do you define as a problem?
I think at that time the vision was very clear for us. It was, we need to bring like the concept of student discounts to India. right? Because globally student discount is such a popular concept, right? And what we realized when we started building it was that there is the penetration of say a .edu email ID itself is very low, right? Less than a percent of students would probably have a equivalent .ac.in email ID or a university email ID. So when we got a few of the customers on board, I think some of the large customers actually brought that up that how do we verify? And at store it was easy, but like online was really uh, where it became very interesting, and that's where we kind of started building the first digital student ID validation kind of a service for India. And I think that really helped us to scale because it became like a very unique proposition. And we got a lot of traction. We got a lot of large brands. But I think at that phase in like Indian e-commerce, everyone was allowed. Right? You didn't want to probably segregate saying that student versus non-student. But we still got a lot of companies, especially F&B, delivery platforms, etc., using us for new user acquisition.
A lot of businesses build their thesis around students, right? They say, hey, students have this kind of money. This is what they want to buy. This is the price point they have. And they went and built businesses, right? Were they the ones coming forward and saying, hey, tell us who these are and are these actually students?
Yeah, especially from a lot of e-commerce companies, and that's why we also decided that this. And as we started adding, I think we made the policy of that. If you add more things to the platform at 20 to 20, it's really thought that it would work out that way, right? We'll add a little more flavor to the platform, and it'll increase the number of students who are coming in because it is a business where you require like millions of people transacting every day, and I don't think that at that point students would barely make a very small population of the online transacting economy. So there were a lot of these businesses who were like trying to kick off at that time, or were like very student focused brands like a McDonald's being a customer for a very long time. And we helped them, like, I think at one point drive offer driven sales. Primarily all the offer driven sales for the youth was being done by us. And I think at that point we decided, okay, there is let's deep dive and understand like why isn't it going from like say 1 to, on a scale of 100, 1 to 2, right? Why is it at this level? And that's why we actually started trying to understand our audience better. And I think that's where it really changed for us, right? Because we'd worked a couple of years on this, and we realized that there is a lot more that the youth generally wants. And when you look at the pocket money, right? That when we did like an understanding, I mean, do this even now, it was shocking that even in a city like Bombay, it's around, on an average, it would be around 600 a month, and at a median, it's around 650 ish a month. Sorry, I think around, but the idea is it's around that level, right? And I think that really,
this is in Bombay.
Our thing. This is in Bombay. So I'm not even talking about like, and at a similar time there was this study which was published, and it in the newspapers about like student pocket money being 8,000 rupees in Pune and 7,000 rupees in Bombay. And it was literally like, if you talk to 100 students and I can tell you, if you go to a HR, NMIMS, these go to these colleges, you'll get those numbers. But broadly, if you step into like even tier 1 colleges, right? There's actually nothing to spend. You're getting a train pass, you're getting food from home. So you're probably going out once a month.
Because I know in Pune, they have a lot more residential colleges. And in Bombay, maybe there's more, I think they call them day scholars, right? So would that really have affected? I mean, 8,000 is still, back in the day, still not that much more, but
Pune obviously was the highest because a lot of people coming from outside was an education hub, but still it didn't mandate for us to kind of keep focusing on that problem a lot, right? Because we realized that we are going to be targeting a very small percentage of people who would graduate, and what made more sense was to create like a tool which businesses can integrate on their own platform, and that's where we kind of started moving in that direction. And we looked at, okay, how do we add more value to these people, right? Because the more we tried to understand them, it started coming through us. There is so much difference, right? You don't even have to go outside Bombay, right? You just travel from one part of Bombay to the other, and you'll see like so the principals and professors that we spoken to have not had a placement cell in their college, right? So I think if I go and tell that to anyone, it's just so shocking because you're like, oh, how do these people get jobs? And so for some of them, the best case scenario is just that one of these companies or these BPOs will just come and just take like 100 students and it's off their hands. And when you go outside urban areas, right, I think that's where and we spoke to like some students across the country. And the advantage of having a digital product is that everyone can sign up, right? So you get an opportunity to speak to each and every person, and you will just realize that they are being educated, but like there are no opportunities.
There's no
And
value,
we launched, yeah. So keeping that in mind, I think we started kind of changing direction and started realizing that okay, this is going to be a larger value add to the lives of our users than giving them offers which they probably don't have the money to spend. Right?
So you kind of moved away from offers and you started focusing on value add. And what did that look like?
Yeah. So initially the idea was, and we like all of us had done internships, and we had this rule from day one that we'll never have unpaid interns, right? In our team at least, because it is just cruel, right? So and it's not like a paid internship where you get say free food in office. Actually, like we'll pay you, and a lot of our like initial heavy lifting was done by a couple of great interns who kind of went ahead and started their own companies later. I think that really kind of set an understanding that okay, internships are important, but again, it's like the access to internships are few. The demand is probably not that high. A lot of the companies which would want to do it would probably do it for free, and that's why like we realize it's like a lose situation, right? Because the person who's doing the internship is not getting too much out of it. And I'm not going to generalize this. A lot of internships are great, right? But if you look at the broader scheme of things, most of the students don't have access to it, right? Here, like we used to always say that you can always call an uncle and get an internship somewhere, right? But you move outside the city limits and you'll see that becomes slightly difficult. In fact, very difficult. The second was that for the companies, it became a challenge to manage interns because they would want to probably get work done from them, but at times, it's difficult, right? You have college, you have a lot of things to manage, and ultimately, we were not making anything out of it, right? It's a US comparable to an internship website. I think I'd read on one of the press releases that their largest paying customer pays them $300,000 a year to hire interns. Right? I don't think that is the combined earnings of internship platforms in India for internships. Right? So there was literally no market for internships, right? Because if I can get it, if I'm not paying the person who's working, I'm not going to pay the platform. So building an internship platform was never the idea. So we launched something called WorkX initially on the on the platform as a pilot, right? You get experiences for which you get paid, right? So the first ones we did were like work with the music festivals, right? So you get paid, you get to be there for 4 days, and we kept adding, like you become an on-ground scout for an FMCG company, do research on ground. These were all like initial shoots of what we were planning, and at that time, I don't think even we looked at it as doing gigs. We just looked at it as like, can we give earning opportunities to people, right? And predominantly students, because to be honest, like that was the low-hanging fruit. Like, students and marketing teams were the ones we had access to. So we went to marketing teams and said that, what do you want to get done for paid? Like, you can't get it done for free. Like, there's no barter. You have to pay people, and we take a cut out of it. And I think that's where they started seeing that, okay, why don't we use them for promotions on campus? Why don't we use them for promotions on social media? So we kind of started building with that, and we built the platform. I think that gave us a lot of insight, kind of build the platform. So I think this was around 2018, so quite some time after we started. I think we also grew a lot more in that sense, from being 21 to kind of 25 probably at that time, to understand what is happening.
Wait, so you're saying that all these companies, when they were pushed to have to pay their interns, they started looking at tasks that they could give them, including for events, for uh, other activities that they could do. Hence, they were paying. Was that kind of
Yep.
the
So
yeah
if you broadly like and what we now call them are like gray collar jobs, right? Or a lot of the gigs, and the reason why this model that we are working on is important because a lot of these jobs are standardized, right? It
yeah
is difficult to pay someone when the output is not defined in a gig model, right? If the output is very well defined and you know that success is putting up a poster on campus, right? So
hmm,
I know that I can go ahead and put up a poster on campus, and on accepting proof, we can pay that person. So we started seeing that a lot of these companies just wanted like stuff which was very standardized in nature. And
hmm,
that's why it was easy to productize it at first. There were obviously some quality requirements which were there, which we productized later on. But over time, we were able to kind of set the standard and the pricing in the industry. That okay, this is how things are going to work here, and got
hmm,
a chance to work with some really large brands, uh, even in like the gig space and marketing, right? Whether it is
hmm.
called influencer marketing, or whether it is called content creators, or whether it's called on ground promoters. I think we looked at it from a more like get a job, get money for finishing. Right? That it
Right.
was as simple as that. Yep.
So I remember you mentioned to me that one of the gigs I used to get was just posting on TikTok to get a hashtag to start trending. Um,
Yeah.
I thought that was a super interesting use case. How did that? I mean, was that something you guys recommended that could work, or did the brand just show up and say, "Hey, you have hundreds of students. Can we get them to start a trend on TikTok?" What was the genesis of that?
So it was usually linked to like brand campaigns that were running. Uh, uh, in like if you see a lot of the influencer marketing that is done has a engagement rate of say between 2 to 6%. The kind of
Hmm,
people that we were having on the platform were not influencers in the real sense, right? They were more everyday people. So they were having a
right.
lot higher engagement, say between 15 to 25, at times 30%. So the audience was more engaged with them, right? And they were a lot of this was a part of the natural, the natural dynamic of their social media presence. So we had some brands. I think that was for a long part of the last year. We used to do a lot of these gigs where we converted a lot of these people into like marketing, everyday youth influencers, and help brands kind of tap into their network and measure how awareness was generated, impact was generated via all these campaigns that they ran via our platform. So I think that was the initial like I wouldn't say that that's the direction we're heading in, but I think that was like the initial start because it was just to be honest, as I said, it was a low hanging fruit, right? For us, like marketing teams and students were like, okay, we already have this, let's experiment with the gig model with this. And I think that's where it all started. And the obviously like the students used to love it, right? And we saw people
Yeah.
participating on the platform, and because suddenly like they are now able to monetize their own social media and make say
Hmm,
1.5 2,000 rupees a month, right? And that's the point where we were like, okay, now like, can we go deeper into this, right? Why should
yeah.
we stop here, and why should we stop at marketing, and why should we stop at students, right? And when we actually ran, like again, an internal, we keep doing this where we try to understand like the income levels of our audience
Hmm,
and what are
yeah.
they doing. We realized that a lot of, while around 60% of them were students, around 12% of them had graduated and are looking for jobs. For some, they were close to around again 15 odd percent were already freelancers, right? Helping
Okay.
companies either working on a gig job with a company doing delivery or some on ground work, right? And we were like, okay, there are people who want to earn more money, and we should be the de facto platform for them to do that, right? And I think that gigs in the original sense, I think 4 or 5 years back, it was always considered to be a side hustle, right? I
Right.
something like a moonlight thing. I don't, yeah, right, where you like kind of work on something on a project at night,
Or
right?
tasks, right? Like, I mean, if you remember, about 6, 7 years ago, Task Rabbit was a huge topic in at least in the American market, and those were gigs, right? Gig could be, uh, you know, I could be a plumber. I could be
Yeah.
something else. I need groceries picked up for me, right? It could be something so mundane that I
Yeah.
can't step out of the house right now, and somebody does that job for me. One of the most famous ones I've seen was somebody could stand in line for a movie premiere to get the ticket. Then I would go and basically pay that person to collect the ticket and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, thanks for standing in line." Right? Um, for me, that's my image of a gig, of doing all these random tasks that you necessarily wouldn't want to spend time doing, where your time is more valuable than somebody else's time, and you're basically paying them for their time, and that's how you do the barter.
Yeah. I think that was the idea of a gig in everyone's mind, right? That I think the idea of part-time jobs is not new, and the idea of part-time jobs on the internet is also not new, right? I think the first day one of the internet happened and someone put an ad saying earn 10,000 rupees a month just by working on Google, right? Those part-time job ads started coming, and they started seeing a lot of interest. So obviously there was people earn money. There's a lot of trust deficit also over that, and so it's not new to do part-time jobs. It's not new for people to do a second job. It was always looked at as a side hustle. Right? But when you start looking at, there are so many people who are
Yeah.
not currently in like the formal economy and want to move into the formal economy, right? There's an initial notion that people have to come to jobs, but I think with gigs you can actually take jobs to people also, right? And I think that is what our realization was in the last year or so, that we have so many people who are there are going to be people who always looked at this as a casual earning platform, but those were not the people. We spoke to people on the platform who saw this as a way of earning money, right? Saw this as supporting when your household income is around 15,000 rupees a month, right? And that's around 30% of our audience, and below 30,000 rupees a month comes to around almost 60% of our audience. I think at that point you are like, okay, any additional money that you earn has to be valuable, and the more you earn, the better, right? So the gig economy works on a very simple math that the more skill you have and the more time you can put, the more money you make, right? So you have at the top of the spectrum is say a UI UX designer who is very well skilled, right? Which is like pure white collar, and you're like, if you get my time, it's this expensive. This is the price of my time, right? On the other end of it is completely blue collar work, and there's a large segment, and service hiring is like the fastest growing sector. So the large segment of people what are now being defined as gray collar jobs, where you need certain amount of skill, it's not very high skill, but the tasks are very standardized, right? So someone doing sales
So they don't
online,
have to spend. So they don't have to spend that much mind power to do those
yeah,
jobs. So and it's very defined, where they don't have to really
yeah,
have to decide or create any value. All they have to do is
yeah.
just do like a mechanical Turk, right? So that there's not much thought that goes
No, lot more than a mechanical Turk. I think what mechanical Turk forgets is that a lot of the people doing jobs are human, right? And you don't want people to game the system in the long run. You want people
on.
to, depend on the platform to make good income, right? Something that affects their life. And I think that is the objective, right? Can you create people who are self-employed and on a month-on-month basis can earn a significant amount of money? And I think that is the direction that we are very very focused on. So internally also for us, we like we call them footworkers now, and we're like, okay, the only two objectives are like more footworkers have to earn, and uh, more footworkers actually have to earn more money. So you increase the number of footworkers who are earning and increase their income, and that is like that defines like success internally for us.
So Frapp now is called Futwork, and this is something
Yeah,
you rebranded recently. And I'm guessing
yeah,
that is short for future of work. You probably just
yeah,
kind of put it together. We'll come to that in a second. I'll talk. I want to talk to you a little bit about that. So you moved away from discounting, student validation, etc., to now offering gigs on Futwork. And this transition has happened with only students, or have you now expanded to a larger base of users who are now on the platform doing these gigs? What has been the transition in your customer base?
Um, so we are now open to all kinds of users on the platform. And what we did initially was that we ran this pilot where we encouraged the students on our platform to ask their parents if they wanted to get gig work. Right, the kind of work that someone wants at that age is probably different. Right, you are not going to be going to post on social media. There are restrictions, right? So say
Right.
I think a lot has been spoken about, like the potential of work of moms who are at work who took a decision to stay at home, right? And I think that is like a that's like a pool of people that we've been interacting with a lot, and we've done few pilots with them, just to understand how we can give them working opportunities which are more valuable, right? So now as we move towards more serious gigs, which are in terms of counseling, in terms of calling, in terms of driving sales for a particular company, which don't require you to move about too much, but require 4 to 5 hours of time in a day. I think those are the kind of gigs where we are seeing more adoption from uh, that community, the mom community. Then there are people who are probably who lost their jobs or who have not gotten employment. For them, just to give an example, I was speaking to like 5 people from Agra last week, and I spoke to them about, like, are you interested in working on these particular projects? And I at first, like, around 2 out of those 5 said they are interested on working on this project. I got like 2 callbacks saying that in the morning you called me and I actually want to understand how the entire gig economy works. So there is a lot of education to be done there, because you're not getting a traditional offer letter. You don't have to report to a boss
Yeah.
on a daily
Yeah.
basis, right? So it is about how much time and effort you want to put in. And I think
Right.
that's where I think for us the change has been in the last 4 to 5 months was the importance of skilling, right? So for us, uh, that was like a piece that we've been missing. And it wasn't that we weren't training people to do gigs on the platform. It is just that we were training them too late. We were training them after they got into a project, right?
Okay.
So we kind of took that on, and we are now building on that. And I think that is a large part of the Futwork Rebrand story also, right? Because with Frapp, it was for the largest amount of time, our tagline was students only, because you could not access the platform without having a valid student document, right?
Okay.
So we want to kind of break away from that,
Okay.
and kind of this is the new direction that we want to see.
Just taking a thread from the last point that we made on the future of work. I know you've talked a little bit about this prior on what businesses are doing right now to kind of keep their costs low and increase, or rather be able to do a lot of these tasks that don't necessarily require a full-time employee and all the costs that come with it. Is that happening across the board? Are more companies embracing it?
I think there are two things to it. I think, and what the COVID situation and the pandemic situation is kind of forcing businesses in a way to make that change, right? I think you have to look at two things. One is uh, how expensive is it to hire and train someone in a city where you don't have an office, right? So initially, businesses were very comfortable growing into the 4 metros, then the eight top cities, and saying that, okay, we can have some presence here and train a team. But that also comes with its own expense. And I think the biggest
Right.
challenge, especially in the area that we are working in, is attrition. If you're losing 30% of your staff in a month, that's basically hiring costs 4 times a year. So we estimate that we can help save costs around 30 to 35% in this segment right now. I think one thing that is going to be what companies will, I think cost is the first factor, but the second is
Right.
going to be the speed of distribution, right? To be able to, have an office in, say, where you are, say in Bangalore, and be able to kind of have people on ground. And that's the kind of work that we've done. Like recently, like recently some things that we've done have been in like far off pin codes, which are technically would come under Chennai, but no one in Chennai will actually travel 50 kilometers out to work, right? So you have to find someone there and get them the job. So for a company which is like kind of looking to build distribution, right, this becomes a channel for them to not have on ground teams on the payroll. And since it's cost of sales, a lot of it is variable. And that's where we come in, where we want to build like a trained on ground force, which you can take up and, you know, assign and kind of they start working for you. So the speed of distribution will be something that will be very important for a company in the future.
How do you acquire users in all of these other locations then? Because I would imagine there's some process you follow if you want to reach a wider geography.
Yeah. To be honest, we get like around 2,000 odd users every day on the platform to sign up.
Oh, wow.
Right. And I don't think like the number of people looking for jobs is ever going to be a problem. And you know, that's always, people are always going to look for. I think what we are doing now, and we actually push an update for it, is to kind of, you know, understand internally who are the casual users and who are the ones who are, you know, looking at this from a full-time work perspective. Right. So we're improving our onboarding process and running an experiment on that as we speak. So I think, as I said, you know, being a digital product, you can't stop people from joining the platform, and that's why you'll always see, oh, we don't have a project in our city. And at that time, you realize that we currently don't have work for you there. But now the kind of work that we are getting on the platform is it's something which is permanent in nature, right? And it's predominantly pan India, right? So you can work month on month on the same project, right? So say if I have to sell to a kirana, I have to sell a product to a kirana store, I can actually sell to all the stores in my locality, in my city. And that's the way we are actually defining it, that work from your home and locality, right? And there'll be multiple such projects that keep coming up for people, which they can take.
Can you give some examples? Can you give some examples of what you don't have to? It's all geography dependent, because I would imagine like if a lot of these tasks involve going out in your locality, doing other things, would, you know, I don't know too many brands that are not focusing on some of these larger cities, right? Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. And then probably gets a lot lesser of an impact driver when it goes to smaller towns. If you're getting that many people signing up from all of these locations, if you're saying 60,000 to 100,000 users sign up on a monthly basis, that means you're racking up a lot of gig workers who are probably just waiting to do something.
Yeah. I won't call all of them gig work. I think they're all just like exploring platforms where they can make money. So that's why the experiment, to kind of know who's the one who's looking to kind of make this as a way of life in a if I just put it like that. But there are so many gigs, right? So just think about like we recently, with the Futwork launch, we launched this product called Tring, which is a distributed telecalling workforce, right? You know, these are people who are trained, and you can get them on a per minute basis. You don't have to like a traditional call center, get a seat for X number of months. And you can be anywhere and do this job, right? You don't have to be in Bombay because the job is in Bombay. Right? You don't have to go to any office to do it. So I think that becomes interesting. There are so many companies which are looking to scale up distribution. Right, companies like one of the projects that we are doing for a company for lead generation, right, which is only in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Right, there are projects which are pan India, where you can be from any part of the country, and because you have to sell a product, and that product could be within your network. That product could be from a larger business to an SMB. So I think that's also like a large use case that we are seeing in come up right now, where it's a large business, they are targeting small businesses, and they need a distribution channel in those cities. And I think that's where, gig workforce will be very valuable to these companies. So, if I want to sell to a kirana store, right, and that kirana store can be in any part of the country. Right? It need not be, it depends on the product. Obviously, there are a lot of permutations and combinations there which businesses might want, but at a broader level, it can be in any part of the country. So I think that's where the idea of that, you can take the job to the person now, right? If
Yeah.
you can effectively train them to do that job, and they can probably do that for multiple non-competing companies.
So if I have to do this for a large client, would I pay what? Would I get paid about $20, $30, $50?
See, again, it depends on how much you want to make. Like the top earner would make like around 13 to 15,000 rupees a month, right? So that means the people who are putting in the time to earn. So I just like was going through some of the earnings, and every Friday we pay out the Futwokers on the platform, and someone earned around 9,000 rupees for that week, right? So they probably like put in extra hours during that week and earned money. So if you put in more time, you get paid more, right? But the calculation is very simple. You have to do X of things, right? So if you have to do, if you have to make a sale and you get paid 4,000 rupees a sale, and that's actually a project that we are doing right now, we're just telling them that you have to make 4 to 5 sales a month, right? And you earn 16 to 20,000 rupees. The math is very simple, and we'll guide you and train you to do that. So the training is built in within the platform. So, and obviously businesses are very supportive because they are getting access to a workforce without having to spend on hiring or put the effort in hiring, right? So,
or managing these people, which also is an extremely high cost when you're dealing with a certain workforce. So is the only requirement for these folks to have a mobile phone, be technologically savvy in some way or form?
Yeah, so the entry barrier in that sense is very low. That you can start working and start getting trained at least just with a smartphone, right? And some projects might require you to have a laptop. Some projects might require you to have a bike, and we collect all this information in the profile of the user, right? So we can also match them with the correct job for them. We take their pin code, so we know that if there's a job in your pin code specifically, you can take that. So the entry barrier in that sense is low, but to actually start being successful, you need to put in the effort, and that's where I think we'll start focusing more on this year now, where we get them to put in that effort and get them to what we call like the first like point of success, right? Earn the first income, right? Because we've seen that they are the ones who are more active, like over the 6 month period would have like a 60% retention on a 6 month cohort, right? So we know that earning makes people happy. So we are like streamlining and getting more people to that point. And post that, then the journey changes. Now you just want to teach them to do more of it, right?
Yeah, once they've tasted blood, they want more, right? The moment you get access, that money is a good drug in itself for people to want to.
It's also trust building, right? Because like most of and we started the Friday payouts very recently, and before that it used to be per project. Now it's like every Friday you accumulate earnings and we pay you. And that really improves trust because you don't know whether if I'm putting like 8 hours in a week, am I going to get paid for it, right? So once you get paid,
that's a great point.
Something.
No, it's a great point. I think trust deficit is definitely runs deep in India, and if you're able to change that, I believe a lot of ride-sharing companies also started doing that in India, right? Because they needed to give people, and a lot of people earn on a daily or a weekly basis. They need that to survive or do other things. So I think it has that kind of approach. Niranjan, this is amazing. I love what you've kind of taken as a concept, and then how you and Armaan have driven this, to kind of a gig model for India. I'm guessing you're extremely profitable, given a lot of his tech, and there are people on the ground, and you probably make a cut from every transaction that happens.
I think that part of the business model, I think that is great because it also keeps us aligned to the vision, right? Because if gig workers earn more money, then we earn more money. It's very simple.
Yeah.
So like we're just trying to drive that vision. Yeah, I think we're just trying to drive that vision internally also. Like when people are making decisions, and this has been like a learning a part of the learning for us in the journey, right? Having that a very clear North Star, I think, which we've had now, and we've like cut things out from what we've built to get to this. And so now that we know that, okay, if everyone in the team knows that if we make this decision, does this mean Futwokers going to earn more money, or more Futwokers are going to start earning money? Like if one of those things is happening, then you're making the right decision. And and we make a cut whenever someone earns. So I think that is, I think, that keeps us true to the vision also of that or what we have.
In this journey, you started when you were early 20s, and you've been running this business for what, 6 years now, 7 years?
Yeah, 6 years. I think we the first year, I think, I don't know what we'd call it. We just launched a WordPress website, and
Okay.
I think that was the initial phase of that, and then we kind of scaled up the website for student
Hmm.
offers. But yeah, we were 20. I was 21. Arman was 22. So really new to like doing this and kind of trying and experimenting with what is happening and just building stuff at that time.
Wh- What really helped you? Because you become a CEO at 21. Of course, it's your own company, so you can call yourself whatever. Um, how did you kind of think through it, and what has been your learning over the last 5 6 years? How have you developed yourselves? What have you been doing yourself?
I think initially we weren't very concerned about. We were just concerned about doing things, right? We're like, okay, we just do something every day and see what the impact of that is. And I think the first book I read was Lean Startup.
Hmm.
It's like,
Eric
oh,
Rice.
if you're starting a company, yeah, you have to read this book. And I think taught us a lot of things about like how to think about building this. But over time, I think we made a lot of mistakes, things which some people told us not to do, we did. Some things that no one told us shouldn't be done this way, and we tried doing it. That was like the first thought, and I think most founders go through this. And I really like hats off to the founders who kind of really like get going at that age and are really able to figure it out. For us, I think it took some time at that time to. It wasn't that we were doing things wrong. It was just that we were not thinking correctly. And I think for us, we got a lot of guidance. I think once Bloom kind of came in, they showed us a path and questioned the decisions that we also were making, and just put things in perspective
When
for
did
us in
Bloom
terms
come
of.
in? Second year.
It was around 2016-17 during that time
Okay.
is when Bloom came in, and I think the conversations that we started having, I think, and what we still have today, I think just shows us like how big can we get, right? And
Right.
the
Right.
ambition just keeps on growing, and I think that's great. I think that's what we got because, as I said, right, for the first couple of years, I think our view was also very warped. We knew that this could be a very big business, but
Hmm.
to put a number on how big it can get and building it in a particular way, and those feedback I think helped us a lot in setting the
What
direction.
were some of the mistakes? What are some of the mistakes that you wish you could have avoided?
Ah, I think every most founders would say that in hiring. I think I don't think we did hiring correctly uh,
Yeah.
because I think it's a dedicated job when you want to hire someone, right? And I know this one founder, like when he wants to hire, he spends like, okay, these 2 weeks I will just hire, and
Hmm.
I think that is how it is. And don't think. I think that was one mistake that we'll try to avoid. I think we'll give more time to hiring. We'll not kind of fall into the trap that we need someone right now to do this. We recently had a chat internally with Mukund from Danto, and he also said that they made the same mistakes initially, and then you realize that you'd rather wait out and get the right person than make a quick hire because at an early stage you really start getting dependent on people inside the company.
Right.
I think it's that. And the second thing was, I think if I have to restart from today, I think like being more culture driven in the organization. So I think, and I think now the clear defining of the North Star has really changed that for us, right?
Hmm.
Because I think initially we were all young and the passion was there always, and it's still there. But now it's like very driven internally also, that when you understand why you are making a decision, and the teams also understand. So I think that is that's something that we are really proud of right now. Yeah, and yeah, I think we would have loved to have a name, a meaning for the name Frapp. I think that was something that people always asked us, and we used to always like agree with someone who was saying, especially like in a sales meeting, so Acha, does it mean free app? Like, it means free app. Does it mean friendly app? Like, if the CMO of a company is asking you if it means friendly app or not, at that moment, I'm going to say yes. But I think, yeah, again,
That's one thing I've realized, right? Is that names or brand names actually don't have to mean anything. People spend
yeah,
way too much time thinking about it, and I mean, you don't need to spend that much time. Like, you just need to get on with
yeah.
building what you're doing.
Yep. I think initially also, like when we started this, it was called Student Splurge. I still have that email ID. And then when we spoke to users for the first time, and we are like, this is not going to fly with
Yeah,
anyone, so we should
I
like
have
go
nothing
back
to
to like a
splurge.
process.
Splurge for 600 rupees. Um,
Yeah.
at this point, did you also have, you obviously have advisors and mentors from Bloom. Did you also pick up along the way folks that you could reach out to? Because I would imagine it's quite hard, navigating the world with, uh, you know, working with large companies. You have to make a lot of decisions. Maybe some of these contracts can go up in a few lakhs and a crores. Um, So, did you have like a friendly voice to speak to? Did you, have somebody on a helpline?
So initially, I think the initial days, at that point of time, we were lucky to also get like some great angel investors throughout this journey. And I met one of our angel investors, Vijay, at a event we were, uh, pitching at an IIT Bombay, and they were very initial days. And I think they've been like very supportive, and I've always been like I just heard we had a session with Manish Sabharwal, so he said you need to have a corporate hearing aid who kind of just tells you things and I think that was the support system that we had initially. Over time, I think we also were a lot. I think we started getting a very open with the team also, and we
Hmm.
also showed to the team that okay, there is like we don't have all the right answers about how to do things. Right? We are a lot of times we are also learning on the go and trying to figure it out. But we've been very open to kind of taking help externally if required if we want to speak about something. And I think I think we should have done more of it if anything else. Because I think this is the perspective that you get by listening to someone at times and the mistakes they've made. And I think this is a realization that has happened in the last 3 months because we've just heard got an opportunity to hear the stories of so many uh,
Hmm.
great entrepreneurs in India. And thanks to like Bloom for kind of helping us kind of get an insight into how people think. And now
Right.
I feel that okay, we should have probably had an opportunity to, or we should have reached out to more people or reached out for more help than we did, because
Hmm.
it really changes the way. I think a lot of these are like years of learnings that probably you would spend as a founder,
Right.
condensed into like 1 or 2 hours of just a conversation with someone. Right, so we used to like we reached out to people on Twitter directly that hey, we want to learn about like this so much data that we generate. How can we make it valuable to some of the businesses that we work with? And then those people actually helped us with like making our initial decks, with our fundraisers,
Hmm.
just like you know, it's a lot of other things that we would probably not have gotten the chance to do if we were not doing this. So we started reaching out to people, and we also like took an understanding that every conversation that we have with anyone is going to be like you take it with a pinch of salt, but also understand perspective, right? Because you have to see what the other person thinks, because they also have access or more visibility at times on certain things that probably we don't have. We don't have the visibility. So I think that was like I think few of our angel investors, few of the people we reached out to, we really stayed in touch at least in the initial days. And I think right now, currently, I would say that we're getting a chance just to hear so many stories, and hear so many podcasts actually just to understand how
Nice.
people think or what their journey was like, and
Right.
it really kind of puts things into perspective.
No, this is great. I think that's also the objective of doing podcasts, right? To get people to hear other stories, because you kind of start relating with them, and you're like, okay, everybody's in the same boat. This is how somebody went about solving it, and maybe you can adapt it for our own journey and try to solve for any of the challenges that may come our way. Um, Hey, Niranjan, this has been great. Chatting about footwork, Frapp, the story. I'm sure we can go on. I really want to dig a lot deeper into the future of work and the distributed sales force, and a lot of other cool things. But we may have to do another session for that. This has been
Yeah.
great. Thanks for your time, dude.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.